What up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Just want to give y'all a heads up. This one is only audio, just because we tried to set up video. We tried to set up cameras in the studio, just to make it look all professional and whatnot, and it did not work. So we had to just do audio only. And in addition, when we were recording the audio, the first probably 18 minutes got cut out, unfortunately. So there isn't trivia. And then right when the episode starts, it's just going to be Gavin giving a recap of the Buccaneers-Lions divisional game. So sorry about the technical errors. We got a lot of cool stuff coming soon. So stay posted and enjoy the episode.
Baker didn't really clap back too much, but then, yeah, like you mentioned early in the first quarter, C.J. Gardner-Johnson had the pick on Baker Mayfield, ran out of bounds, handed the ball to Baker Mayfield, got on Instagram Live after the game, talked his talk. So you love to see that. Yeah. Florida boy in the Lions secondary, just not afraid to get in the offense's head. So I love that, and I think that's kind of an underrated factor in the playoffs, is like a guy that'll actually get in the quarterback's head. Like, I trust C.J. Gardner-Johnson to talk his talk because I know he'll back it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a big piece that they got back from that defense. So, yeah, the impact was felt. Poor Baker definitely got harassed a little bit on the media after that, just by him. But, yeah, I mean, I think another big takeaway from that game would just be the Buccaneers have some very solid coaches. They have a pretty solid offensive coordinator. Todd Bowles remains one of the better coaches in the league, I would say. I mean, doesn't matter if they had Tom Brady or Baker Mayfield or what. They took their team to the playoffs for, I believe, the fifth straight season. Even if it's at a 9-8 record. So I think that's pretty. There's something to be said there. But
yeah, I mean, he's coming out of the NFC South.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But a lot of those teams had pretty close records there, so you can argue it was more competitive. But at the same time, you want to see some more dominant wins from all those teams.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good game. Two really good teams. I didn't expect Baker to step up the way he did. He had that one throw where he was kind of rolling out to his right. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was on the blitz. He was chasing him. Baker kind of got hit as he threw. Made an incredible sideline throw to a tight end who made a little toe tap catch.
Oh yeah, it was a K-down catch.
I was shocked at that, and I just kind of was like, damn. I mean, Baker still got it. Like, that was a really nice throw. And then my other play of the game came from Detroit. About 9 minutes left in the game, we were up one score. Had a 3rd and 15. They hit Amon-Ra on the little curl route, and he fought for a first down. Those are just plays those are all pro plays. From him. I mean, that was incredible. And then you had the Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown where he made just one cut on all-pro safety Antoine Winfield, beat him to the end zone. He was staring down the camera as he crossed the goal line, talked a little smack to Antoine Winfield in the end zone. You love it.
Mm-hmm.
You love
to see it. And, of course, couldn't talk about the Lions without mentioning Dan Campbell. What a beast. So might be in line for getting the Coach of the Year award. We will see. But let's talk about some coaching staff, speaking of Campbell, right? So a lot of teams looking for coaches and GMs this offseason. There have been a few spots that have been filled. So I think one of the bigger ones that we should talk about is the Bears seem to have found their offensive coordinator. They were looking at Cliff Kingsbury. They were looking in the Shanahan-McVay tree, and they did end up settling for that McVay tree. They got former Seahawks OC Shane Waldron. You mind if I talk about this guy for a little bit?
Please go ahead, man.
Well, let me tell you something about my good friend, Shane. Well, me and my good friend have never actually met, but I know all about him. So he has been in numerous places around the league. Started his NFL career in New England. He bounced around a lot of different colleges, and he was doing various aspects of coordinating. He was at UMass for a while, had some success there. Very small football program, which I don't believe exists anymore. But he was at UMass for a while. He was in New England. He was with the now Commanders in Washington. And then he was with McVay for a while. And one of the more notable things he did with Sean McVay, he had your quarterback, Jared Goff, when he was still in the Rams. He had his best passing season there with Shane Waldron in his head. So there's something to be said about that there. Obviously turned Geno Smith into a stud in the last few years with the Seahawks. And one of the things I like about this Bears hire is just this is a guy that actually has play calling experience. So for the last couple of years, he has been calling the plays. He has been the main guy. Pete Carroll's the defensive-minded guy for the most part. And, Shane Waldron, being a fairly young guy, 44 years old, still thought he was going to be a head coaching candidate this year. Now he has the opportunity to shine with the Bears. I don't know what quarterback he is going to have. However, I will say this. His specialty is play action, bootlegs. I've been begging the Bears to do this. The last couple regimes have hated play action for some reason, whether it was Nagy with Trubisky or it was Nagy with Fields or it was Getsy with Fields. They don't like to get Fields out on the move so that he has the option to throw on the sideline or run. That's kind of Shane Waldron's specialty. And he did that a lot with Geno Smith this year. So whether it's Caleb Williams or Justin Fields, I'm really excited to see what he does with this offense.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love watching Justin Fields get like a naked bootleg where it's kind of a designed QB run, then he just takes off and does what he does. But yeah, I would love to watch Fields display that arm a little bit more, especially with Waldron as the offensive coordinator. So does that mean you guys are going to go out, maybe get yourself a tackle in the first round, maybe get a wide receiver or both? You guys got a lot of options.
That's a good question. I still think center is a bigger need over tackle. I think right tackle's set with Darnell Wright, give him another year to develop. I think Braxton Jones, he has his moments where he's not very good, but overall he's been pretty good at left tackle. And I think, yes, you can always upgrade, but center was so terrible. And one of the other things I was reading today was that, for a new offense, right, you're going to have Fields learning his third or fourth offense so far in his first team in the NFL. The center posed a lot of problems for him this year, not getting the snap count right. They had the cycle between Lucas Patrick and Cody Whitehair and Dan Feeney. So really underrated part of command at the line is the center. That's why Jason Kelce is so valuable to his team. I think he was voted like in the top 50 of MVP candidates for this year. And
who?
Jason Kelce.
MVP?
Yes. And I know top 50, right? So it's still 50. But still, yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about O-linemen being voted in the top 50 guys. Center is one of the most important positions in football. I don't think people really realize that.
Wait a minute. I got to pause and go back on that. How does the voting system work? I thought it would be like a top 5 guy. Like that has to mean that somebody gave him an MVP vote, doesn't it?
I think it was less of like the NFL, the owners
AP.
voting for it. I think it was more of like an AP or a kind of a side poll, but I believe it was among players and coaches because they only record like top 10 like in terms of registered votes in MVP. For instance, like Justin Fields was the 9th ranked MVP candidate in the year he rushed for 1,200, which is unbelievable. Yeah, but no, I think this was more of just like an impromptu type of thing.
Okay, yeah, just giving the guys flowers.
Yeah, but the reason I bring that up is because when you're learning your fourth offense, if you're Fields, you want the offensive line to create as little problems as possible because you already have to have control of, the snap count and you need to be making adjustments at the line. So if they can go in and get a veteran center who knows the offense, maybe somebody that has played with Shane Waldron before, you could get, I think Evan Brown is the guy from the Seahawks. He was a center. You could go out and get somebody like him there. You could sign one of the Rams centers that he had when he was there. Just go out and sign a veteran who will learn the offense and help you with the snap count. I think that's a really important part to make sure the pressure isn't always on Field or Caleb Williams.
Yeah, the center position is one of the most underrated in football. It's really so important. That's why you see it with the Bucs offensive line, with the Lions offensive line, with Ragnow. I mean, sometimes the centers are calling the play. They're calling out, who's blocking who. Sometimes they're telling the quarterback what to do. Super underrated position, and yeah, I think Fields needs an O-line. It's glaringly obvious.
Yes, agreed. So, yeah, I think this is a great hire for the Bears. I think there were some other really good hires in this coaching cycle. Antonio Pierce, I didn't think the Raiders were going to do it, but they kept their interim. He did a great job turning around not only the record, but just the whole energy of the locker room. They hired Antonio Pierce as their head coach, and they also went out and got the former Chargers general manager, Tom Telesco. For reference, Tom Telesco, if you want to talk about all the problems the Chargers had, could you argue that Telesco brought in Staley and that was a problem? Sure, but for the most part,
it's not his fault.
Yeah, this guy created an all-star roster. In his time there, he got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen was already there, but gave Mike Williams the contract.
Joey Bosa,
Khalil Mack. J.C. Jackson wasn't a great signing, but at the time, he brought that talent in there. Derwin James. They had Eric Kendricks, had a pretty good season there. Yep. He's assembled a ton of talent. Didn't work out in that window as now they're negative $50 million in cap and headed into maybe a rebuilding stage without him. But this is a guy that knows how to get player talent. And when you combine that with the locker room guy of Antonio Pierce, I thought these were two great hirings. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Antonio Pierce kind of gives me like a Dan Campbell vibe. Like he's more of a motivator. Like he understands his players. His players are down to ride with him. And I don't know, man. It's just great for him. Like I think it's been his dream his whole life to be the head coach of the Oakland Raiders. Like he was an Oakland Raiders fan growing up. He understands the culture of the city. He understands the culture of the franchise. And he's willing to do everything to get this team to the playoffs, get them to the Super Bowl. It's like very reminiscent of when Dan Campbell was first hired. Like some people might say he's a meathead. He doesn't really know what he's talking about, but the culture in the locker room is about to change. And you saw it when he was an interim coach too. It's kind of unfair having to play against an interim head coach because I feel like they just always win their first game. Like they always just rile up the guys and they get them fired up. You know, they're playing for their interim coach and they might have a whole season next year with that same attitude like they're playing for an interim head coach. But yeah, I'm happy for Antonio Pierce, man. That's great for him.
Yeah, it's a great story as well. And the players love him. Max Crosby loved him so much he was going to request a trade if they didn't hire him. So, you know, like no pressure, Raiders, you know, maybe hire this guy or your best player is going to be unhappy. So smart decision regardless of that. Now, I will say, you know, what your point about, you know, the interim coaches getting a ton of momentum like in their first game and always winning really goes to show you that even if you're not the most experienced play caller or, you know, whatever. We had Jeff Saturday, who was a center in the NFL, interim coach. He won his first game.
He went from coaching high school football to coaching an NFL game, and he won.
And you see the spark right when they got rid of the old staff. I just wish that the Bears had done that at some point this year with Getsy. Who cares who would have taken his place? Just get somebody else in there. I mean, and speaking of Getsy, the Raiders now with their head coach and their GM looking for an OC and a DC, they're interviewing Luke Getsy.
Interesting.
So Raiders, if you're listening to our podcast on the University of Iowa radio, the 1.5% chance that you are, 0.0005, I would be very careful hiring this man unless you trade for Aaron Rodgers. And that's all I will say on that. Let's talk about one more guy who I think is a pretty good hire here. The Titans got rid of Vrabel. They're looking for a kind of a change of pace. You know, it wasn't necessarily his fault. It was more of a mutual split. Mm-hmm. They ended up going after the former Bengals offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan. So Titans going with an offensive guy now. Any thoughts on that? Nah?
No real thoughts, man. I mean, you got the Bengals to a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback? Like, that was super impressive. The passing game was elite. Hopefully he works well with Will Levis. But to be honest with you, man, I couldn't care less about what goes on in Tennessee for the next 3 years. I think this team's going to be rebuilding.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think this dude's kind of just going to be like a little bridge head coach for the Titans.
Yeah, you did mention that. We talked about who would be a good candidate, and you said that they could probably just go with a bridge guy, kind of assemble some pieces there, see what works and what doesn't. And, you know, if he works out, great. And if he doesn't, then, you know, oh, well. I think one important thing to note is that now that Brian Callahan is no longer with the Bengals, every single team in the NFL's offensive coordinator has changed in the last 2 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, shuffling offenses.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's a crazy stat right there.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that before this, there was only one team that had never switched, was the Bengals. So, yeah, very interesting there.
That's a great stat, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Instagram, for that. And so, you know, there's a couple more spots left. You got Washington, you got the Panthers, you got the Falcons, Chargers. Looks like the Falcons are interviewing a ton of guys. Belichick, Harbaugh, Ben Johnson, Vrabel. You know, frankly, I was going to talk about which one might be best for them, but, I mean, they're interviewing literally everyone. They interviewed Ben Johnson. They're interviewing Raheem Morris. Yeah. Those 5 guys that we just talked about. So
yeah, they interviewed Ben Johnson Sunday night directly after the Lions beat the Bucs. I don't know, man. Like, go away, bro. Let us have our moment.
Yeah, Ben's got to lock in. You think, you know, after they interview him after he wins that game, he's all fired up. He's like, I don't care who you give me. I'll take him to the Super Bowl. Like, you know, just hand him a blank
check. He's trying to coach his offense to a Super Bowl, and he's taking like 4 head coaching interviews during the week.
Yeah.
Bro, like, lock in, man, please. I get that we're winning the game, but please make sure you're doing your job first.
No, I agree with that. I agree. It should be interesting to see what the Falcons do. I would say they would probably get Belichick. That's my guess. But since they're interviewing all these guys, who knows? I think Ben Johnson isn't going to take a job until he's done, until he's knocked out of the playoffs. And that's either going to be this week or after a Super Bowl ring. So pretty good spot for him there.
It's going to be after a Super Bowl ring.
Hey, man.
He's going to be the most sought-after head coaching candidate after he gets this ring.
You're going to need to first take down the Niners and then either Lamar Jackson or Mahomes. So it's not the easiest path, but you know what? It would be a phenomenal story, and honestly, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, I don't see why not, honestly. I mean, they got what it takes.
Yeah.
I'm worried about San Fran, but, whatever.
Hey, 1 week at a time. So, yeah, game plan San Fran and figure out the rest after. Well, we got more exciting stuff to talk about. We are going to take a quick 30-second break, and we will be right back.
Wilder Things magazine is the only on-campus literary magazine dedicated to promoting and uplifting works of speculative fiction. They publish a print volume in the fall and a digital issue in the spring, highlighting pieces from undergraduates across the globe. To stay up to date on all things Wilder, follow on Instagram at WilderThingsMag or visit online.
All right. So going into our next topic here, Cam Newton's been in the media a lot lately. People have been, calling him out saying, oh, well, what does he know? Like, you didn't do anything in the NFL. You didn't win a Super Bowl, whatever, which I think is crazy. I mean, he won an MVP.
He only has the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback ever.
Right, and is one of the most unique quarterbacks we've ever seen and one of the most intriguing personalities of quarterbacks we've seen.
Yeah.
But he has been getting a lot of maybe not hate, but complaints, we'll say, for calling a bunch of guys game managers. And so I figured you and I should talk this out. We'll give the final word, is Cam valid or not. There's a couple names that he gave, and he said these guys are game managers. They're not going to go out and change the game. All they will do is ensure that you don't lose as long as they're running the offense smoothly.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple names here. And I want you to tell me what you think. Are they a game manager or are they a game changer? Starting with Cam's arguably most controversial pick is a game manager, Brock Purdy. And I will preface this by saying I want your unbiased opinion without the fact that you're going to be playing him this week.
Yeah, well, I was going to say he might be a game changer. I want him to prove it, but not this weekend against the Lions. He did. He looked pretty solid, though, against Green Bay. I think right here, the difference for me between a game manager and a game changer is your ability to get out of the pocket, your ability to sense pressure, your ability to make throws under pressure, make throws on the run. And Brock Purdy, he's kind of shown that he can do that so far. The Green Bay game, he missed some throws. The rain might have had a factor in that, but I don't know, man. He's young. Only time will tell, but I think at this point, I think he's on track to be a game changer. Really. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone back and forth with this because, going back to last year and for the majority of this year, I still kept thinking, all right, well, this is such a quarterback-friendly system. And, without discrediting what he has done, I still think it's just because he has all these playmakers and the system around him. But, the more and more I think about it, regardless of if you have the playmakers around you or not, you're still making it happen. And I think, what you said about the Packers game, yeah, he did. This was the first game that I've seen of Brock where he was missing more than a few throws. He was missing like all of these open receivers. He had McCaffrey over the middle a bunch of times. Brandon Ayuk, he was not able to connect with. He was just inaccurate on a lot of those, just by a few inches, so it could be a nerves thing. It could be the rain. And so for that reason, I don't want to make any crazy assumptions. But
yeah,
I agree with what you said. I think for the most part, though, he did do enough to keep his team in a winning position. Jordan Love sold at the end. Thank God he's not going to torture the NFC North for the next 10 years, I hope. But, yeah, I mean, I think that the jury is still out. However, as much as I want to say he's a game manager, he put up 4,500 yards on 31 touchdowns. He turned the ball over 10 times, and he had it on a 69% completion percentage.
Wow.
So, you know what? I'm a big stat guy. I think if you can put up numbers like that, you might be a game changer. But I agree with you. I think I want to see a little bit more out of him, just not this weekend. So, well, what about this guy? This is another guy that people were saying, oh, Cam, you don't know what you're talking about with this. Dak Prescott.
You said Dak Prescott was a game manager?
Yes.
See, my argument with this is I think Dak Prescott's a game changer. Kind kind of for all the wrong reasons, though. He'll change the game by throwing a pick six on a slant route that gets jumped that was so glaringly obvious. Like, I wouldn't have thrown that ball. And I've never taken a snap at quarterback in any league in my entire life. I wouldn't have
flag
thrown
football, like recess? You've never
none of that.
played quarterback? No?
I'm not a quarterback guy, bro.
Dang, man.
They told me I wasn't smart enough.
Yeah, I guess when you run a 4-2 like you do, I guess, it puts you in other positions.
Yeah,
probably.
I'm a playmaker, skill position.
Absolutely.
But no, man, Dak, he has the ability to make the big throws. He did it all year, but I mean, in the playoffs, he just can't get it done. And I think he kind of tried to do too much. Like I just mentioned with the slant route that got jumped so obviously. I think he was just trying to do too much. He was trying to change the game. I think maybe he needs to dial it back a little bit and try to be a game manager. I don't know, like being a game manager, it really isn't that bad of a thing. It means you're taking care of the football, you're doing what your coaches drew up. And Dak kind of, if he gets outside of his box, if he starts trying to make plays, make throws on the run, cross his body, all that, that's when he starts to make mistakes, and that's when things go south for the Cowboys, especially in the playoffs. I would say Dak's a game changer, but he should dial it back a little bit and kind of accept his role as a game manager, because that Cowboys team is loaded. That's a loaded roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I personally, I just had a gut feeling the Packers were going to go in there and get a dub. But really, on paper, you look at it shouldn't even be a competition. You got the best defense in the NFL and then a loaded offense.
Yeah.
Offensive line, wide receiver. I mean, even running back, Tony Pollard not having the best year that he had, compared to last year, but still, he's a 1,000-yard guy. Like, yeah, you should. I mean, Dak Prescott was talked about as an MVP candidate at some point this year, and technically could still win. But yeah, I mean, my thing with Dak is he put up phenomenal numbers this year, and I will say over the course of his career, he's probably been overhated a little bit. But my thing is, if you can't go down the field and win the game for your team, if you don't have that clutch factor that gets your team back into games, you're not a game changer. And so, that's what I still want to see from Brock a little bit. He hasn't played very well playing from behind, and so that's something I want to see with Dak. Yeah, he was trying to do too much in that Packers game. I mean, he should have had, I don't remember how many interceptions he finished with, but he should have had another one before they scored the touchdown at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
He threw it right into Devondre Campbell's hands and he just dropped it.
Yeah. I think he ended with 3 interceptions on that game.
Yeah, and he probably should have had 4.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they were undefeated at home. They were playing, like I said, the youngest offense, and they had a fantastic defense. The defense definitely let the Cowboys down a little bit. So you can blame McCarthy, you can blame Dak, but that playoff loss was on their defense for sure. But yeah, I think Dak's ability to change the game in a positive light is equally as frequent as his ability to change the game in a negative impact.
Yeah.
So for that, I agree with you. I would put him more in the game manager category. It doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback.
Yeah.
Game manager does not mean you're a bad quarterback. It just means that when you make mistakes and you don't have the ability to get back into it, you're the reason that this team doesn't do well.
Yeah, and that's why it's the toughest position of sports.
Indeed.
It's really the only position where you could single-handedly lose the game for your team.
Yeah, very true. So speaking of, tough spots, I'm going to put you in one right here because I want to know what you think about Jared Goff, whether he's a game manager or game changer.
I mean, that's not tough for me at all. I think this guy's the definition of a game manager, especially with an offensive coordinator like Ben Johnson. All Goff has to do is make the throws. His offensive line keeps him pretty much untouched the entire game. Like if they were playing in the mud, wearing white jerseys, he would end the game with a white uniform. Like he doesn't go to the ground at all. Now when the pocket collapses, Jared Goff can't do anything. He's completely immobile. Like I think he had one scramble actually against the Bucs, which was cool. We were making all the Vanilla Vic jokes and stuff, but as much as you want to talk about that, like he is the definition of a game manager. He makes the throws he's supposed to make, and he hands the ball off probably 40 times a game. So, yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think he is the definition of a game manager.
Fair enough. I was just trying to test you there and see if you'd fold. Yeah, this guy's the MVP.
I'm a realist, man. I know what Jared Goff is.
Fair enough. I agree with you, and I think that again, that goes to our point of like a game manager isn't a bad quarterback. You can win a Super Bowl with a game manager. You absolutely can. All the other pieces just need to be there.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady was a game manager.
Yeah, you think that? You think that, man?
No, that's a wild take. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the system quarterback, you can argue that, but I don't know. Yeah, I agree. So I guess another playoff quarterback got knocked out by Jared Goff. How about Baker Mayfield? What do you think?
Baker Mayfield, man, we haven't really seen enough of him. Like, as long as he's been in the league, I feel like we still haven't seen enough of him. He tries to be a game changer. You saw it against the Lions. He tried to make some throws. He did make a couple nice throws on the run where he had to kind of escape pressure and get the ball off quickly, but I don't know, man. He's kind of like a Jameis Winston. Like, he'll throw just as many interceptions as touchdowns, and as many plays as he makes, he gives the ball away to the defense just too many times. So I don't know, man. If you really want to be a game changer, I don't think that you can. He's a guy who single-handedly loses the game for his team, kind of like I mentioned. So I don't think you can be turning the ball over as much as he does if you want to be a game changer.
I totally agree with that until this year. I think this year, regular season, yeah, you can argue that still happened because he had a few drop picks, but ball security was a huge issue for Baker, and he got it under control for the most part of this year, and definitely in the playoffs. I mean, that last throw was heartbreaking because he was doing so well. He didn't make a mistake the whole game, and then he
Yeah, I mean, my heart wasn't
up.
broken. I
That's
actually
true.
lost all the feeling in my legs and collapsed to my knees and cried when he threw that interception. But yeah, sure, heartbreaking for some people, I guess.
Yeah, but I think that begs the question: if you are the Buccaneers, what do you do with Baker? Do you give him a contract?
Yeah,
I mean,
is his contract up at the end of this year?
Yep, was it. He was on a 1-year prove-it deal, and he had the best year of his career in passing yards, completion percentage, touchdowns, interceptions. And now if you're the Bucs, you've got Mike Evans, Levante David, Devin White, Antoine Winfield, and Baker, all free agents.
Wow.
Let's not worry about all of those guys for now. Let's just talk about Baker himself. You got $49 million in cap space. Do you give Baker a max extension 5-year? Do you give him a 3-year, kind of a Geno deal, or you let him walk?
I don't know, man. I mean, there are a lot of teams out there that need quarterbacks. I'm sure Baker could find a home somewhere else. If you're a franchise, though, right now, I don't know if Baker's proven enough to just hook him up to your team for the next 5 years like the Giants did Daniel Jones. That's proven to be a mistake. So I think if a guy hasn't really proven it like Baker Mayfield has, I don't know, man. It's a big decision. You said a max contract. I mean, how much is Baker Mayfield worth at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think Spotrac, or Spotrac, however you pronounce it, NFL contract website, they project his market value at around $28 million a year.
Okay,
which I think is pretty fair. I mean, nowadays
I was gonna guess 25 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's anywhere between 25 and 30 is pretty good. But then when you start going upwards of 30, you're like,
Yeah.
If they're saying Fields is going to get $40 million a year the Daniel Jones contract was so bad because that set the benchmark for all the other they were like, we don't want to pay you. You're not that good. And then Daniel Jones was like, well, it could be. And he finagled $40 million a year from these guys.
Yeah.
Geno got, I think, 45 a year, or maybe it's less than that. But I think if you can get Baker on a 3-year deal and you can pay him $30 million, if you really want to pay him $40, okay, but I think that's too much. But maybe he'll be like, okay, well, fine, I'll just go to another team then. Which then you're like, all right, well, what option do we have? We're not going to throw Kyle Trask in there and just be all right, go. So yeah, I think getting a 3-year deal for Mayfield would be good. I would feel uncomfortable locking him up for 6. Maybe you franchise tag him and have him play another year. Mm-hmm. I think those are all good options.
Yeah.
But as we get into the last 15 minutes of our show, real quick, we are going to talk about the playoff matchups coming up this week. Obviously, down to 2 matchups, 4 teams. Only 2 of these guys are going to the Super Bowl. We got Chiefs at Ravens Sunday at 2 p.m. Second playoff road game for Mahomes. Got a dub in the Bills game last week. I want you to tell me who you think is going to win this game. Chiefs, Ravens. Ravens at home.
Man,
Sunday, 2 p.m.
I love Baltimore this year. I love that defense. I think Mahomes is just waiting on. I don't think he's played top 3 defense yet this year, and I think that Baltimore is the best defense in the league this year. I think they showed it against C.J. Stroud and the Texans last week. I think that defense they play with the same type of attitude that they had when it was Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs. They play with that same attitude. They got some dogs on that defense, and then Lamar and that offense, they could spread the field. They got some joysticks on that offense in Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers. They could spread it out. They could throw the ball, but that team will ground and pound. And I just don't know if the Chiefs defense is ready to stop this team yet. Also, I think it's the Ravens' time, man. I think it's Lamar's time to get to the Super Bowl. He's ready to get into the limelight. I think he's going to win a MVP this year as well. So yeah, I like Mahomes losing this weekend. I hate betting against Mahomes, but I love betting with Lamar.
It's so tough to bet against Mahomes, but I think this is the year. I think this is the year that he does not go to the Super Bowl. He's made 6 AFC championships in a row to start his career, which is absolutely ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
And I think if anybody is going to beat him, it's not going to be Josh Allen. It's not going to be Joe Burrow. I guess he did that one time, but so maybe it is Joe Burrow. But Lamar Jackson, that team, I think the two teams that are the most built for a Super Bowl are the Ravens and, 49ers.
Okay.
Not saying that that's my pick, but I think if you're the Chiefs, you have clearly found a rhythm in the playoffs. This is not the same team that we saw earlier in the regular season. They took care of the Bills. I think this is going to be a close game, but I agree with you. I think Baltimore can come away with the dub here. And to those of you listening, if you want exact score predictions, you'll have to peep the Instagram afterwards. We'll give you an exact score breakdown. So last matchup of the week, Lions at the 49ers, Sunday night, 5:30. I already know who you're picking here.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I'm going Lions.
I'm
going Lions, man, but the run game needs to be consistent in this game. It looked a little bit, the 49ers D-line looked a little bit weak against the Packers. They were kind of running all over him. Chase Young does not look like a problem. And it's crazy because you play that team on Madden. Yeah, Bosa and Chase Young are getting to you. Fred Warner's probably jumping 30 feet in the air and picking off passes. But I don't know, man. Chase Young just does not seem like the guy that we saw his rookie year, his second year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're going to be able to run the ball all over them, and then that'll open up the field for play action, get some passes over the middle to Reynolds and St. Brown. But, yeah, I think whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win this game because these are two explosive offenses, and you just got to be able to take care of the ball, and that's when Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, that's when they work their magic. And, man, I don't want to let Brock Purdy beat us, man.
I don't think really anybody does except for the state of California. And frankly, I'm stuck here because this whole playoffs, I was like, Niners are going to the Super Bowl. No one is going to stop them except Baltimore. And then even then, maybe they have a chance to beat Baltimore. But they've just looked shaky.
Yeah.
So, with this win, I don't know. They might not have Debo playing. So that's going to be huge. I think there was another guy in the injury report. I was trying to think. I don't know. It might even be a Lions guy that I was thinking of. I think Ragnow might be questionable. But
yeah, he's always questionable.
Yeah, but we saw last week he was playing through injury.
Yeah,
he's tough.
Frank Ragnow's one of those guys who I don't know if he's like practiced at all year because he's just one of those veterans that shows up. He's like, Coach, I'm gonna get it done Sunday, but it's Tuesday and my foot hurts, so I'm not practicing. And he's a vet,
right,
so they let him do it.
Yeah. And might be the best center in the league if Kelsey retires.
Yep.
So really underrated guy there. But yeah, I would say the 49ers without Debo, Brock looking kind of shaky, it's going to be tough. But, I've had your back all year, man. This is where I jump off. I'm sorry.
Damn.
I'm going to pick the Niners here.
He's not rocking with us. Okay.
Dude,
we'll remember this.
I would love to be pleasantly surprised because I think a Ravens-Lions matchup would be amazing. But I feel somehow the Niners are going to find a way to finagle a win here.
Yeah, I love it, man. You were on the boat, but you weren't rowing, so get off the boat. We don't need you.
Fair enough, man. Where my heart lies in the NFC North anyway, so we both got Ravens.
I thought we were America's team. I thought that.
Well, it's not Dallas, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's definitely
not Dallas.
So that one hurts.
My bad, dog. We'll settle this out like men after the show.
Sure. Yeah, meet me outside.
So we both got Ravens. One of us has Lions. One of us has Niners. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we will wrap it up with our player flashback and our Q&A. Stay tuned.
Support for KRUI is provided by Little Village. Little Village is Iowa City's independent, community-supported news and culture publication. Little Village's event calendar connects readers with critical cultural opportunities. Through journalism, essays, and events, Little Village works to improve our community according to core values: affordability and access, economic and labor justice, environmental sustainability, racial justice, gender equity, quality healthcare, quality education, and critical culture. Little Village can be found in print editions at local businesses in Iowa City as well as online at littlevillagemag.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Time for the weekly player flashback. This time, not really a low key guy. This one, everyone should know this guy, but a certain Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown kind of made it reminisce of this guy. Chris Johnson.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, you might know him as CJ2K.
Yes, sir.
Product of Eastern Carolina University. Just an absolute dog on the field. One of those dudes who, like, he'll get tackled after 1 yard on, like, 5 straight plays, and then he'll break a 70-yard touchdown. Just a dog, one of the fastest players we've ever seen in the league. 3-time Pro Bowler, all in his first 3 seasons. He was an All-Pro the year that he ran for 2,000 yards, hence the name CJ2K. 2009 AP Offensive Player of the Year. And only 8 or 7 other players in the NFL have run for 2,000 yards. So you could argue he's a top 8 running back of all time.
Wow.
His speed surely shows that. I just want to share a couple of interesting facts about this guy. Chris Johnson got his first tattoo when he was in 7th grade.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I remember, like, when I first saw the picture of Lil Wayne's album covers where it'd be like a baby version of himself with the tattoos on, I thought that was real for a little bit. But then I learned how dangerous that really is to get tatted at such a young age. Chris Johnson getting tatted in 7th grade is pretty crazy.
Do you know what the tattoo was?
Nah, I'm unsure.
That's fair. We'll let him have some privacy.
Yeah. I wish I would have learned that. But another interesting fact, Devin Hester and Chris Johnson in 2013 for a little episode of National Geographic, they raced cheetahs, like on foot.
What?
Yeah, Chris Johnson's a fun guy, bro. He wanted to test his speed. Same with Devin Hester. Little ode to my Bears fans. Chris Johnson lost his race against the cheetah, and Devin Hester won his.
Hey, come on. We like to see that.
Fastest man of all time, you could argue. I mean, he beat a cheetah.
I mean, that's wild. I don't know where you find these facts, dude. Because, like, National Geographic, you raced a cheetah?
Yeah, shout out to, there was some article by, like, a Jets writer that I found when Chris Johnson signed with the Jets in, like, 2010, so, yeah.
And they're like, yeah, he's good because he went toe-to-toe with the cheetah.
He went toe-to-toe with the cheetah, man. He had the gall to do it, man. I respect it.
Well, that's a great flashback. I think, sometimes we try to look at some really obscure guys, but sometimes it's good to just reminisce about, like, guys who dominated the 2000s, 2010s. Like, he had a crazy stretch. Yeah, the 3-time Pro Bowl. It probably should have been MVP that year. I think that was a Peyton Manning MVP year or something like that. Yeah,
they just gave it to a quarterback. But, I mean, it is interesting to look at, like, 3-time Pro Bowler in his first 3 seasons and then kind of just fell off at that point. Like, if you look statistically, season by season, he just kind of got worse and worse each year. And he's an advocate for running backs. He's spoken up since before it became a huge talking point. He's spoken up about how undervalued running backs are and how they're underpaid and not taken care of, for how many hits they take and the injury risk at the position. So he's an advocate, which, I love that. I think everybody deserves to get paid, especially running backs. They're taking the bulk of the damage from the defense. So I respect that from him. But yeah, CJ2K, man, just what a fun player. And what a fun player to play with in Madden, too. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's like Mike Vick in Madden. It was so fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's some crazy MUT cards you can get of CJ2K as well.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say on this before we do our Q&A, whether he declined or not, I think it's worthy to note that he did start his career with 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Wow. Last one was 3.9 in the ground, but still. And then, age 30, he was out of the league pretty much. Not out of the league, but, bounced right. He had a year with the Jets. Wasn't that great. Yeah. Went to Arizona at age 30. He said, running backs, they decline at 27? You kidding me? In 11 games, had 800 yards at age 30. 3 touchdowns for the Cardinals. Almost had 1,000 yards of scrimmage there. Yeah. I think there's something to be said about that.
Dog.
Yeah, dog. So great flashback. Gotta love it. That's why you tune into the show. We always got good players to reminisce on.
Yeah, and if you want to watch any Chris Johnson highlights, tune into the Lions game on Sunday because Jahmyr Gibbs is Chris Johnson.
Reincarnated.
But maybe faster.
Yeah. Another good actual Chris Johnson highlight reel. Chris Johnson versus Maurice Jones-Drew. Both of those guys went for like 200 yards in this one game.
Yeah.
That's a great game to watch. So definitely look that up on YouTube. We got a couple questions to end the show, per usual. First one is from Daniel. He asks, is Sean McDermott on the hot seat? No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think right now, whether you want to call it a head coaching free agency, I think it's just way too stacked of a lineup of free agent head coaches right now. And Sean McDermott he's failed again and again in the playoffs. And I understand they've made it to the AFC Championship and things like that, but I don't know, man. Sometimes it's just time for a change. And I think now is that time. Go out and get yourself a Harbaugh, maybe a Belichick. But at this point, I kind of see your point because you would have already had to have fired him and been interviewing coaches by now. Like, if you were to fire him now, you're a step late in the process. So yeah, I guess I could rock with you on that. Let McDermott and Josh Allen keep doing their thing. I guess I could see it.
That's a really interesting take. I didn't even think about that, with the stacked coaching cycle. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely something to think about if you're not getting it done. I mean, something has to change. They can't just keep doing it. That kind of relates to Nick's question. Do the Bills admit they need to make real changes? Do they keep trying till they finally win? Maybe McDermott could be a potential solution to that. But yeah, I think something needs to go. They got to get another weapon besides Diggs.
Yeah, maybe go get a new offensive coordinator. I think they have an interim offensive coordinator at the moment.
Yeah, Joe Brady, I think, who's getting some jobs. All right, we got just under a minute here. Eddie asks, who will be the Super Bowl MVP? You got to have the teams and the guy.
Lamar Jackson for the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. No Lions?
Man, I mean, you got me there. I guess, I don't know. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit Lions.
Fair enough. One of those two. Yeah, I'm going to go Lamar for the Ravens.
Yeah, probably the obvious pick right now.
And if Mahomes weasels his way in there, it's got to be him.
Yeah.
Last question real quick. Luke asks, what do you think Trey Lance's prospects are looking like in Dallas?
Man, put him in there right now. They should have thrown him in there against the Packers in the wild card game. I don't know. I mean, I think Dak's the obvious starter going into next year, but maybe run a little like what Michigan football did this year and in the past, like a little 2-quarterback system where he'll come in on like a first down and do like a designed quarterback run maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm underrating Trey Lance's talent right now, but that's kind of the only role I could see him playing with Dallas next year unless Dak gets hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think it's not even a matter of underrating his talent. It's just you got Dak. Like, there's no reason to throw Trey. Trey's hasn't proven enough to say, okay, we're going to bench this MVP candidate Dak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. They should be more creative and get him more involved in the offense, have him come in and run a couple plays, QB runs. So yeah, I agree. That's a great take right there. I think the only reason he would come in, Luke, is if Dak goes down, but definitely worth taking a look at what you got there. So that's going to be it. We are out of time for today. We will be back next week. We're going to try and have a video episode for you guys, and that will go up on our YouTube. If you're not following the Instagram, go ahead and hit the Instagram at Onside Kick Show. And thank you so much for listening. Gavin and I signing off.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.